A tragic turn in the search for a missing toddler, with the investigation spanning 2 states. 3-year-old Nola Dinkins now believed to be dead.
They say a mother's love is the safest place a child can ever know. It's a heartbeat in the dark, the whisper that chases monsters away. But what happens when that very heartbeat becomes the most dangerous sound of all? On a quiet summer night in Delaware, a frantic 911 call set off a statewide Amber Alert. A terrified mother claimed her 3-year-old daughter had been ripped from her arms by armed strangers in a black SUV. Police scrambled. Helicopters lifted. The nation held its breath. But within 24 hours, the story unraveled, revealing a horrifying truth no one saw coming. Because the danger hadn't come from shadows. It had been sleeping in the same house, holding the same child and lying to the entire world. What investigators uncovered next would leave even seasoned detectives shaken, and an entire community asking how such evil could hide behind a mother's smile. This is a heartbreaking and deeply disturbing story of Nola Dinkins, and how the truth shattered far more than trust. Before we dive deeper, please take a moment to subscribe to Cold Crime Case Diaries. Your support helps us bring these important stories to light, and together, we give voice to the victims who can no longer speak for themselves. Now, let's begin. The sun had just dipped below the skyline in Newark, Delaware. A warm summer evening blanketed the quiet apartment complex until a frantic 911 call shattered the calm. They took my baby, my daughter, they took her at gunpoint. The call came from 31-year-old Darrian Randle, who had recently moved from Indiana to Delaware with her 3-year-old daughter, Nola Dinkins. She told dispatchers that while retrieving something from the backseat of her vehicle, 2 strangers, 1 man, 1 woman, approached, displayed a weapon, and drove off with her child. She described the suspect vehicle as a dark SUV, but she was too distraught to recall the direction they fled. Authorities immediately issued an Amber Alert. Law enforcement launched a wide-scale search. Cruisers, helicopters, and K-9 units fanned out across state lines. Nola's face, framed by soft curls and a pink hoodie, lit up phones and television screens. A community mobilized. Volunteers combed through wooded trails, dumpsters, and retail lots, each hoping their effort might lead to Nola's safe return. But behind the scenes, investigators were already noticing discrepancies. There were no surveillance videos of the alleged abduction. No witnesses reported seeing a struggle, a weapon, or the described vehicle. And Darrian's account, so desperate during the call, began to show inconsistencies during interviews. Her responses didn't align with the emotional weight one might expect from a grieving parent. By early morning, concern shifted to suspicion. Detectives sat down with Darrian again, gently urging her to recount the timeline. Her story wavered, details blurred. Eventually, the tears stopped. A few hours later, the Amber Alert was canceled. Meanwhile, investigators followed a lead to neighboring Maryland, to a home Darrian had previously shared with her partner, Cedric Britton. It was there, inside a small residence in Cecil County, that officers noticed strong chemical smells and an absence of children's belongings, no toys, clothes, or signs of recent child activity. What they did find raised alarm. Law enforcement secured the area and followed protocols. In the process, they discovered materials that required further investigation, items that would soon become critical to the case. Back in Delaware, Darrian sat in a quiet room across from detectives. Her voice dropped, her eyes emptied, and then came a confession that changed everything. The story of a kidnapping had been fabricated. According to her statement, Nola had passed away days before. She described a stressful evening, frustration over spilled food, and actions taken in anger. What followed was a tragic sequence of decisions. Hesitation to seek help, failure to notify authorities, and choices made in fear rather than responsibility. She admitted that with Cedric's help, she concealed what had happened, transporting Nola to a secluded location across state lines. Authorities responded with urgency and compassion. Law enforcement teams in Maryland followed the information provided and located the area described. What they found would later be confirmed through forensic investigation. The community that had held its breath in hope was now overcome with sorrow. News of the case spread quickly. Headlines announced a reversal. What was thought to be a stranger abduction was now under criminal investigation involving those closest to the child. Candlelight vigils were held in both Delaware and Indiana. People who had joined the search gathered to mourn. Court documents later revealed that Darrian had been engaged in a custody dispute with Nola's father, who remained in Indiana. Concerns had previously been raised by extended family regarding Nola's well-being, but no official action had been taken in time. During questioning, Cedric provided his version of events, indicating he was informed after the fact and felt pressured into assisting. His account described panic, fear, and a sense of helplessness. But he admitted to not notifying authorities, a decision that would carry serious legal consequences. Both Darrian and Cedric were charged based on their roles in the incident. Darrian now faces multiple counts, including serious charges related to the child's passing and the obstruction of justice. Cedric faces charges of being an accessory and failing to report critical information to law enforcement. At her court appearance, Darrian remained mostly silent. The judge denied bail, and her defense attorney requested a mental health evaluation. The prosecutor described the incident as deeply troubling, citing deliberate deception and the failure to protect a vulnerable child. Public response was overwhelming. Photos of Nola, smiling in snapshots, playing at the park, curled up with her favorite stuffed toy, circulated online. Tributes poured in. Local artists painted murals in her memory. Community leaders, schools, and faith groups called for change and accountability. Beneath the sadness, serious questions surfaced. How could this have been prevented? Were there signs that were missed? Did gaps in cross-state protective services contribute to the outcome? And most heartbreaking of all, what was Nola's final experience? Was she confused? Did she feel scared? These are the unanswered questions that weigh heavily on the community and on the investigators, prosecutors, and advocates who now carry her story forward. A preliminary report suggested that Nola may have endured prior emotional or physical stress. The medical examination is ongoing, and authorities are committed to a full and fair investigation. Her father, devastated by the news, expresses pain in a single message shared online. "I tried to save her." He had filed motions, raised concerns. But the legal process was slow. Too slow. Outside the courthouse, supporters gathered on June 14th. Signs reading justice for Nola lined the steps. Someone left a small white teddy bear with a pink ribbon and a handwritten message. "We didn't know you, but we loved you." In the wake of this tragedy, advocates are pushing for systemic reforms. They are calling for faster custody case reviews, better child welfare response times, and more robust protection for at-risk children moving across state lines. Because Nola's story must not fade into another case file. She was a daughter, a bright, curious little girl who deserved a full life, one filled with safety, love, and stability. What happened to her cannot be undone, but what happens next might prevent this from happening to someone else. As of now, Darrian Randle remains in custody. Cedric Britton is under supervised release. Both await their day in court, and in the quiet left behind, a community mourns. If you made it this far, thank you for staying with us through the haunting silence, the broken systems, and the unbearable truths, for bearing witness to Nola Dinkins' story, a story that was nearly buried in deception, but now demands to be told in full light. But this can't be where it ends. Because somewhere out there, another child is slipping through the cracks. Another parent is raising alarms that won't be heard in time. Another life, like Nola's, is counting on a system too slow to act. The question isn't just why didn't someone stop her? The question is, who will stop the next one? We don't tell these stories for views or headlines. We tell them because behind every case is a child, a life, a future that was supposed to be more than a name on a court docket or a candle at a vigil. So if this story moved you, if you felt the weight of Nola's final days, the unanswered cries, the missed chances, then help us make sure her voice is never forgotten. Subscribe to Cold Crime Case Diaries for more stories that challenge the silence and expose the cracks in our systems. Like this video to show support for Nola's memory. Share it, because awareness is the first step toward change. And always remember, behind every cold case, there's still a chance for truth, for justice, and maybe, just maybe, for prevention. We'll keep watching. We'll keep asking. Until someone answers. Stay safe. Stay aware. And we'll see you in the next case.